You've seen it floating through the air in churches, especially during special services. You've smelled it, sweet, earthy, and sometimes sharp. It swirls around the altar, fills the room, and clings to your clothes. But have you ever stopped to ask, what does this smoke really mean? This isn't just a ritual for show. It's not just tradition or decoration. Behind that cloud of incense is a rich story, a story of sacred commands, holy warnings, and deep spiritual meaning that dates back thousands of years. Let's go back to where it all began. In the Old Testament, specifically in the book of Exodus chapter 30, God gives Moses detailed instructions for building the tabernacle, a holy place where people could worship him. But it wasn't just about building walls and placing altars. God also gave Moses a specific recipe for a special incense. He said, "Take fragrant spices, gum resin, onycha and galbanum, and pure frankincense, all in equal amounts, and make a fragrant blend. It shall be salted and pure and sacred." Exodus chapter 30, verses 34 to 35. This incense wasn't just made to smell nice. It was considered holy. God made it clear that it should only be used in worship and only in the way he had commanded. No one was allowed to make it for personal use. In fact, God said, "Whoever makes incense like it to enjoy its fragrance must be cut off from their people." Exodus chapter 30, verse 38. This wasn't a suggestion, it was a command. Why was God so serious about incense? Because it wasn't about the smoke or the scent. It was about obedience, respect, and worship. The incense symbolized something bigger than itself. It was a physical sign of spiritual connection between humans and God. There's a powerful and chilling story in Leviticus chapter 10 about two priests named Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, the high priest. One day, they entered the holy place and burned incense before the Lord, but they did it in a way God had not commanded. The Bible calls it unauthorized fire. The result? Fire came out from the presence of the Lord and consumed them, and they died before the Lord. Leviticus chapter 10, verse 2. That's how serious this was. Nadab and Abihu were not outsiders. They were trained priests, chosen to serve in God's holy place. But they ignored God's instructions and treated holy things casually, and they lost their lives for it. This shows us something powerful. Worship is not a game. When God gives clear instructions about something sacred, we are expected to treat it with reverence and humility. So what was it about incense that made it so meaningful? The Bible tells us that the rising smoke of incense was a picture of something invisible, our prayers. In Psalm chapter 141, verse 2, King David says, "May my prayer be set before you like incense. May the lifting up of my hands be like the evening sacrifice." The smoke rises upward, slowly curling toward the heavens, just like our prayers rise from earth to God. The scent fills the room the way our words, our hopes, our cries reach up to the ears of the Almighty. We also see this picture in the New Testament. In Revelation chapter 5, verse 8, there's a scene in heaven where elders are holding golden bowls. Each one had a harp, and they were holding golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of God's people. That's right. The Bible tells us directly that incense represents our prayers. Think about that for a moment. Every time you see that smoke rising in a church, you're watching a symbol of prayer in action. It's like a visual reminder that God hears us, that our cries are not forgotten, and that worship is meant to reach beyond the ceiling of a building. But incense wasn't just about symbolism. It also played a practical and spiritual role in preparing the space for worship. In the temple, priests would burn incense to purify the space. It was believed that the smoke helped to sanctify the area, making it clean and holy for God's presence. It also helped the worshipers enter a different state of mind. The moment the incense was lit, the air changed. The scent signaled something sacred was happening. It created an atmosphere of awe, a feeling that you were standing in a place unlike any other. Even today, many people report feeling more peaceful, focused, or spiritually connected when incense is used during worship. That's not accidental. Our senses, smell, sight, sound, are all part of how we experience the divine. God created our senses, and he uses them in worship. So far, we've learned that incense in the Bible wasn't just about smell or tradition. It was sacred. It symbolized prayer. It cleansed the space, connected people to God, and marked moments when heaven and earth met. But here's a big question. What does all this mean for us today? Does incense still matter in modern Christian life? Or is it just something old that we've outgrown? The truth might surprise you. Today, many churches still burn incense, especially Catholic, Orthodox, and some Anglican or Coptic churches. But many modern churches, especially evangelical or Pentecostal ones, don't use incense at all. It's often seen as too traditional or ritualistic. But before we dismiss it, we should ask, what were God's reasons for commanding it in the first place? He wasn't trying to impress people. He was giving them a way to interact with the invisible. Let's face it, we're human. We need touch, sight, smell, and sound to connect with things deeply. That's why God often used physical actions like kneeling, lifting hands, washing, and yes, even burning incense to deepen our connection to Him. It wasn't just a scent, it was a sign. It wasn't just a cloud, it was a reminder. That's still true today. Have you ever walked into a place and felt something you couldn't explain? Like peace, or tension, or something spiritual? Churches that use incense often describe how the moment the incense is lit, the atmosphere changes. The air becomes thicker. The light filters through the smoke. People become quiet. Something sacred fills the room. Why? Because incense does what no sermon or screen can do. It reaches the senses. It doesn't speak to the mind. It speaks to the soul. And in that atmosphere, hearts soften. Prayers feel heavier. Worship becomes deeper. That's not superstition. That's how God designed us, to respond not just to words, but to sacred spaces and holy experiences. Incense invites people to pause, to reflect, to be still. And in today's noisy, fast world, that pause is more powerful than ever. There's another layer to incense that many people don't talk about: its role in spiritual warfare. Throughout the Bible, we see that scent and smoke are not just for beauty, they're tools of battle. In both the natural and spiritual world, smoke has been used to drive away enemies, cleanse infection, and mark territory. In the same way, incense has long been seen as something that pushes back darkness. When burned during prayer or worship, it becomes more than a symbol. It becomes a weapon, not against people, but against fear, evil, distraction, and anything that tries to pull our hearts away from God. It's not magic. It's not about the ingredients. It's about the faith behind it. When incense rises during a prayer of faith, it's a way of saying, "This place belongs to God. This moment is for Him. Evil has no place here." In Revelation chapter 8, verse 4, it says, "The smoke of the incense, together with the prayers of God's people, went up before God from the angel's hand." Notice that prayers and incense together were lifted up before God. They work together. And that shows us that our physical worship, when done with faith, has power. Another modern benefit of incense? It helps us focus. Let's be honest, it's hard to pray. Our minds wander. Our phones buzz. Our thoughts jump from worry to task lists. But the scent of incense does something interesting. It brings your focus back. It tells your brain, this moment is different. It helps the heart slow down. The body relaxes. The mind pays attention. That's why people in all kinds of faiths, not just Christianity, use incense during sacred times. Not because it's magical, but because it helps the soul get ready. We live in a world where everything is digital, fast, and flat. Incense brings us back to something real, physical, and sacred. It says, stop, breathe, be with God. Let's zoom in a little. What does incense mean for you, personally? It means this: God sees even the smallest acts of worship. When you whisper a prayer, raise your hands, kneel quietly, or just sit with your heart open, those moments matter. They rise to God like incense. Even if you never burn incense in a church, your prayers still rise. Even if your church doesn't use it, your worship is still holy when it's genuine. But sometimes, lighting a candle, burning incense, creating a moment of silence and smell, it helps remind you that you are stepping into something sacred. It tells your heart, right now, you are before the King of Kings. Now here's something powerful. All throughout the Bible, incense was part of the offering system. It was burned alongside sacrifices. It was a sign of surrender, praise, and atonement. But when Jesus came, He became the ultimate offering. In Ephesians chapter 5, verse 2, Paul says, "Christ loved us and gave Himself up for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God." Do you see that? Even Jesus is described as a fragrant offering. That means the entire story of incense points forward to Him. His life, His love, His sacrifice, it all rose to the Father like holy incense. So when we worship, when we pray, when we offer our hearts, it's not just tradition. It's a way of joining in the story of Jesus. Finally, let's talk about heaven. The book of Revelation paints several vivid pictures of heaven's throne room. In them, we often see smoke, incense, and golden bowls. In Revelation chapter 8, verse 3, another angel, who had a golden censer, came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense to offer, with the prayers of all God's people. That tells us something amazing. Incense is part of worship, even in heaven. So when we burn incense here on earth, we're not just doing an old church thing. We're echoing heaven. We're doing something that connects the past, the present, and the eternal. So yes, when you see that smoke rising, remember, it's not just for show. It's a symbol of your prayers. It's a tool to prepare your heart. It's a sign of sacred space. It's a reminder of Jesus. And it's a small taste of heaven. Whether your church uses incense or not, the lesson is the same. Don't rush past the holy. Don't forget the power of worship. Even something as simple as a scent can carry deep meaning when it's offered to God with a pure heart. So next time you see the smoke, pause. Breathe. Remember, your prayers are rising.